They love it when you're recording stuff for YouTube with your phone and it rings, so it cancels everything. Anyway, I'm coming to you today because I've had some question submissions from the 30-day challenge group, and we're coming to the end of our 4 weeks, and I had offered up, hey, put your questions below and I'll answer them to the best of my abilities. So I'm gonna go ahead and answer sort of a 3-part question here from one of our participants. And the first part of the question is, I'd like to learn a little more about macros and what's a good fat, protein, carb percentage for weight loss. And so what we need to know about macros is that they are just that, carbs, fats, proteins, but the combination percentage of those macros basically equate to calories. Calories being energy we store and burn and use in certain ways to fuel our bodies. So you'll have people that are keto, which is high fat, or you'll have the high carb people, or you'll have the low carb people using a lot more protein, yada, yada, yada. And they all have their theories about why they use what they do. What you need to know is, especially around this question with weight loss, the whole point in weight loss is to consume less calories than you need to maintain your current body weight. And so that means if you are, I'll take myself as an example, 5'7", 140 pounds, and I want to stay 5'7" and 140 pounds, I'm going to be exercising 5 to 6 days a week. I'm going to be exercising an hour of, say, 45 minutes to an hour of weight training, and then 20 to 45 minutes of cardio. What do I want to do to lose some fat? Well, I've got to balance out my macros to maintain muscle and burn fat at the same time. So that's a consideration that I have to make for my own macros. But the key here is that I am consuming less calories than I need to maintain my current weight. So at my current 5'7", 140 pounds, and that exercise regime that I gave you, I could consume anywhere between 1,800 and 2,000 calories to maintain my current physique. If I want to lose fat, I'm going to have to drop my calories down to, depending on how aggressive I want to be, say 1,500 calories a day in order to start to lose weight. And now, for me, I'm going to be bodybuilding. I'm going to rely on protein synthesis at the same time. I don't just want to lose weight. I want to burn fat while maintaining and even building muscle. So, you know, my weight might not even drop that much necessarily, maybe 5 or 7 pounds, but the overall change in my physique would be incredible, because I will maintain or still grow my muscle mass, but shred that layer of fat off the top. So I'll just look better. My clothes will fit better. It'll be like I dropped 15 pounds when maybe I only dropped 5. So weight loss isn't necessarily the key, depending on your body type. Macronutrient goals, macronutrient ratios are all dependent on your body and your lifestyle. And if you can program them yourself, that's cool. If not, somebody like me can do that for you and monitor you. So if you're looking for your own personalized macronutrient ratios and meal plan, get back at me. So. And then the second part of that question, I think I sort of already answered already, but how would fat loss differ from maintaining and muscle building? So let's say me, 5'7", 140 pounds, I want to put on muscle, and a lot of it, want to bulk up. I do, but so I could maybe take my calories from 2,000 to 2,500, but on top of that, what I'm going to be doing is making sure I have my protein intake, my carbohydrate intake at the right times of day. Macronutrients aren't just protein, carbs, fat. They're the right kinds of proteins, the right kinds of carbs, and the right kinds of fat at the right time of the day in order to build muscle. So you're going to want your complex carbohydrates that release energy for a longer period of time over the day, more evenly. There's no big insulin spikes that cause us to gain fat. And then your protein, you're going to want to synthesize protein post-workout for sure, but you're also going to want to make sure then that you're getting your protein in a certain level, a number of times during the day even, or just to a certain level, to your macronutrient levels. And that's all dependent on your current body type and the amount, again, that you exercise. So Maintaining, here's me, 5'7", 140 pounds. I'm maintaining at 1,800 to 2,000 calories with my 6-day-a-week workout schedule, 4 to 5 day a week cardio schedule, 1 rest day. If I want to lose, I'm going to drop that down to 1,500 calories a day. And if I want to gain, bulk, build lots of muscle, I can pump that up to about 2,000, 2,500 calories a day with proper nutrition, not junk food. And that's the most important thing to note about macronutrients. You can give somebody a macronutrient plan and say you're going to go 40% carbs, 30% protein, and the 40, 30, that's 70, and another 30 fat. That's kind of an even amount of, or a decent amount of macronutrients, but it's where those calories come from. And when you get down to recording your macros, you'll start to notice that it gets very tricky because even things like kale have carbohydrates in them, and a lot of carbohydrates as compared to something like celery or cucumbers. And so it's a lot of negotiating in your mind. And that's why I first usually start off my clients on meal plans that I'll give them with, you know, here's your calorie intake, here's what the macros are, but here's the foods that you should focus on eating, because it's very difficult to navigate all of that information at first by yourself, okay? And then, so that's a bit of a ratio. I mean, 40% carbs, and then, less fat than protein. And then and that's just a standard program. And then we've got people that do the keto diet. And so there's 0 carbs. And imagine you're splitting everything between protein and fat. And so that's when you've got to also consider the impact of your nutrition on the body. Your body needs carbohydrates to survive. And so things like a ketogenic diet, first of all, we only know we're in ketosis by measuring our blood. So people who are on these keto diets aren't necessarily reaching ketosis. You would have to measure that with a blood glucose monitor, like a diabetic. And I have no problem with ketogenic diets, especially vegan ketogenic diets, because we don't eat foods full of nitrates that cause cancer necessarily. But we just need to make sure that we're cycling off of our ketogenic diet once in a while, to give our body a break, to trick the body to enact a bunch of different processes in the body, but to also feed yourself some carbohydrates. You need them to survive. And then that kind of answers the next part, which is, I never know what to believe with the keto and high carb, low fat people, pulling at both ends of the spectrum. High carb, low fat is like another whole movement that's coming. Don't concentrate on protein, don't eat much fat and just go super high carb. And the benefit to people with a high carb, low fat diet is that it's very easy to find a lot of carbohydrates. And you're hoping that they're getting carbohydrates from a good source, a healthy source. Not necessarily just a vegan source, but a whole food source. The problem with that, again, like with any restrictive diet, is that you're missing protein. Your body needs protein to live. You're missing fats. Your body needs fats to live for processes in your brain, processes in your digestive system. Your body is a well-oiled machine, and it knows how to take care of itself. It's just that we overwhelm it with a lot of stuff and addict it to certain types of food. And so there are all these fad diets, but at the bottom line with every single one of the fad diets, if you're just looking at a weight loss perspective, is that it's all going to boil right back down to a caloric deficit. And a caloric deficit simply means if I'm that 5'7", 140 pounds, and I'm eating 1,800 to 2,000 calories a day, and I'm not losing any weight, you know what I'm gonna have to do? I'm gonna have to create a caloric deficit. So my maintenance calories are 1,800 to 2,000. I'm gonna have to drop them even by 100, 200, 300, 500, whatever I'm trying to accomplish safely in order to create any type of shift, weight loss, fat loss, whatever you wanna call it. So there are all these fad diets, but we really have to take into consideration balance, and that's the one thing I don't like about high carb, low fat, keto, all that stuff. It works, but it's not balanced. Your body needs all 3 macronutrients and a whole lot of micronutrients. And when you starve it of one thing, you can start to see some negative impact. And high protein is not always the way to go. High fat is not always the way to go. High carb is not always the way to go. But definitely the first thing you want to do is remove processed foods, because once you remove processed foods, navigating macros is so much easier because it's far less dangerous. You're being far less dangerous to yourself relying on macros from non-healthy food sources. So again, if you're looking for your own macronutrient calculations, you want to work with me a bit longer on figuring out what the goals are for the next 30 days and 30 days after that, I'm always happy to help because I am available online. So I can cater programs to you to help you out, even just navigating the start of getting onto macros and into macros and seeing how that flexible dieting works in your lifestyle. And any more questions, we can always handle it one-on-one, but it's a very personal journey. It should all start with caloric deficits and whole foods. Okay, hope that answered that question. Take care, guys.